Hello everyone, my name is Edelista Moedak and you can call me Edel. So I'm from class D. Today I will explain to all of you about human brain and language. A few weeks ago I found a story that is rare in the medical world. There is a disease called stroke infection and cerebral infection. So what is cerebral infection? Stroke infection or cerebral infection is a condition when blood flow in the brain is obstructed, causing damage to brain tissue. This damage occurs because brain tissue doesn't get enough oxygen. Without adequate oxygen, brain cells and tissue will be damaged and die. How does the cerebral infection happen? Let's look at the mechanism by which the cerebral infection disease occurs in the human body. Hearing the word stroke, you will immediately think, wow, does stroke affect our brain? The answer is yes. So there are two types of stroke, namely, the first is infraction stroke, and the second is hemorrhagic stroke. Stroke, in fact, or ischemic stroke is a type of stroke caused by a lack of blood flow to the brain. Most of the stroke cases are stroke infects. Another type of stroke is a hemorrhagic stroke. Hemorrhagic strokes are caused by blood vessels in the brain become weak and rupture, causing bleeding. So, stroke infection is caused by a lack of blood flow to a part of the brain. This can occur due to two conditions, namely atherosclerosis and blood clots. Atherosclerosis is the accumulation of fat or plaque in blood vessels. Over time, plaque can cause complete blockage of blood vessels, so that there is no blood flow to the brain and cause a stroke infarct. Blood clots can also move inside the blood vessels and cause blockage in the blood vessels. These blood vessels are not the only one in the brain. One example is the carotid blood vessel in the neck. When a blockage occurs either due to plaque or blood clots in the carotid arteries, it can cause a stroke. A mild stroke has symptoms similar to a stroke infection but only lasts less than 5 minutes. Small strokes do not cause permanent damage. Nearly a third of people who have a mild stroke will have a more severe stroke within 1 year. Symptoms of stroke infection. The first one is facial drop on one side. After that, speak less clearly and sudden weakness of one side of the body, difficulty walking, headache, fail for no reason, confusion or inability to understand what others are saying, visual disruption, and the last one is severe headache for no apparent reason. So, what are the treatment options for the ischemic stroke? The first one is use of drugs. The condition can be overcome with the use of drugs. Therapy using drugs that aim to break up blood clots can be done within 4 to 5 hours after initial symptoms appear. The second one is endovascular procedures. Doctors usually treat blockage strokes with endovascular therapy. These medical procedures can improve the patient condition as well as reduce the risk of losing bodily function for a long time after a conditioned stroke. The last is other medical procedures. This operation is performed to remove cholesterol plaque that clogs the cardiac arteries while reducing the risk of a blood stroke. There is a case about an old woman named Liu Jiayun has been diagnosed as cerebral infection by doctors, a type of stroke that causes her to forget his native language, Mandarin language, and start speaking English. She suffered from migraines and stroke which left her body paralyzed. Cerebral infection occurs when blood flow to the brain is interrupted due to problems with the blood vessels that supply it. Lack of adequate blood supply the brain cells deprives them of oxygen and essential nutrients, which can cause part of the brain to die. In embolic infection, it appears suddenly in atherothrombotic infection. Atherothrombotic infection, they develop over a period of time, usually hours. Atherothrombotic infection is often preceded by a transient ischemic attack or TIA. TIA are focal neurological defeats that last less than 24 hours and resolve. The mechanism of TIA is uncertain. They may be caused by decreased critical perfusion that impairs neurologic function but fails to cause permanent tissue damage, or by embolism that ruptures as soon as they close the vessels. The release of osmotically active substance from neurotic brain tissue causes cerebral edema. This is exacerbated by vascular injury and protein leak in the interstitial space. After 3 to 4 days, interstitial fluid accumulated in and around the infra. This is the most dangerous period for a large cerebral infection. At each infection, there is a central core of irreversible total ischemia and neurosis. This area is surrounded by a boundary ischemic tissue zone, namely the ischemic penumbra. Ischemia in the penumbra causes dysfunction due to ionic and metabolic dysfunction but is not served enough to cause structural damage. The rapid restoration of perfusion is the penumbra with injection of a thrombolytic agent can prevent structural damage to this area, terribly limiting the neurological defect. Ischemic stroke is an emergency. The window of opportunity to save the penumbra is very short. The infant stroke is the most common type of stroke. It is estimated that about 80 to 90% of all stroke cases worldwide are caused by infant or ischemic stroke. In general, people affected by these diseases are usually hard to help, and their chances of life are very small. But another case happened to this grandmother named Liu. She could be helped with very little change, but when she woke up, she surprised many people by not speaking other Chinese, although only English very fluently. from what I read, she really doesn't speak Chinese at all, but she can only speak English. I know that ischemic infarct disease attacks the human brain system. More precisely, it seems that the part of the brain, the part of the brain that function to maintain language skills has been damaged due to the cerebral infection. On the other hand, the memory which contains knowledge about English actually comes to the surface. Miss Liu also experienced paralysis in her arms and legs, and well as impaired language function in her brain. The part of the language center in the brain responsible for regulating the mother tongue is damaged, but the part of regulates English remains intact. In cases like this, usually the patient will not experience a change in accent in speaking after a stroke, migraine, or head injury. However, Leo's case was a different case because Leo had mastered it fluently. Expert explained that Mandarin is a very complex language and use both parts of the brain to use it, while English only requires one side. Cerebral infection has another name, namely ischemic infection, which is a stroke disease where stroke infection is the most common type of stroke. Ischemic stroke caused by interrupting blood flow to the brain and causing problems with the blood vessels that supply it. Usually, people who experience this stroke will only experience a change in accent in speaking after a stroke, migraine, or head injury. But the Leo case is very steeping because the part of the language center in the brain that is responsible for regulating the mother tongue is damaged, but the part of the regulates English remains intact. So this is the reference link you can see in the slide, and then I'm so happy that you watch this video until the end, and then thank you very much and have a nice day. See you in next video. Bye.